It's important as a ball player and as an employee in any sector in America to know your rights as an employee. The United States has laws protecting employees in every field, and that includes minor league baseball. As a player, it's important to know that there are certain things that your company or your employer cannot do as you're employed by them. One of those things is discrimination. It's illegal for a company or an employer to treat you differently based on your race, your ethnicity, your national origin, your sexuality, or your religion. That means that if you're treated differently or you feel you're treated differently in any of these capacities, it's actually illegal for your company to do so, and they're required to investigate these acts of discrimination. All workers in the United States have a right to organize. This means that, as I mentioned earlier, minor league players don't have a union. All workers in the United States have the right to organize for better working conditions. You cannot be punished by your team. It's illegal for them to punish you for supporting or trying to organize a union. Workplace injuries. If you're injured on the job, your worker is required to provide all reasonable and necessary medical treatment. This is really important in a place like minor league baseball where injuries happen all the time. You see it constantly. Guys are getting, shoulder strains or Tommy John, or they're straining their quad or something like that. Any medical treatment or any necessary medical treatment that comes from a workplace injury, your employer is required to treat. This includes practices, games, all that sort of stuff. The team is required to cover these things. And that can be really important to note. At the end of every season, the team is going to have you do what's called an exit physical, or they're going to have you sign a piece of paper that says that you're healthy going into the offseason. If you have any injuries at that time, if you have things that are nagging you, if your arm is bugging you, if there's something going on, do not sign that paper saying you're healthy unless you've confirmed that you are actually healthy. It's really important to note that teams will use this sometimes to make you pay for your own medical treatment. They'll say that you got hurt in the offseason, even though you got hurt during the season. You got a shoulder strain in June and it never really went away. And then you sign your paper and then you get to the offseason and it turns out your shoulder's still bugging you. Make sure that you report these things to your trainer. Make sure that you have a paper trail to show that you were injured during the season. Continuing on with the Know Your Rights stuff, your employer cannot retaliate against you for filing any type of complaint, including a discrimination complaint. If you file a grievance against your employer for any reason, you cannot be retaliated against. It's important that you understand this because a lot of players are afraid to speak out. They're afraid to, ruffle any feathers or do anything like that. You cannot be retaliated against for any type of complaint that you file against your contract or against for a discrimination complaint or anything like that. Harassment. All workers in the United States have protection from unwanted verbal and physical conduct of a sexual nature, and every employer has a legal responsibility to investigate sexual harassment complaints. I understand that baseball, it's a sport that a lot of us have, we've been in locker room environments, we've been in environments with ball players. If anything in those spaces happen that you feel is not right, it's not safe, it's not healthy, report it. Understand that you are capable and you have the rights to protect yourself against any of these types of harassment. One of the other things that you have a right to is right to not have unsafe and unhealthy working conditions. You have a right to a workplace free of recognized workplace hazards. It's worth checking out the OSHA website for some of these common hazards, but these include, exposure to chemicals, exposure to extreme conditions. That's something that, minor league baseball, you might be exposed to these things. And, it's not always the right time to file an OSHA complaint, to file a complaint against these things, but you do have the right to be protected from common hazards in the workplace. So as a ball player, you are an employee. You're not different than any other worker in America. And so what it means is that you actually have the rights, the access to the rights of every other worker across this country. So it's worth knowing your rights. It's worth understanding what you can and can't do, and what your team can and can't do to you as an employee.